Thank you, Mr. President. Dennis.
Do you believe that Syria's position as a secular state could be at risk in this conflict?
Okay. Of course, when we have this kind of extremism and terrorism and violence, that will render the whole society into more closed society, more ideologically fanatic. And that's what they are doing. That's what the extremists are doing.
But what does it mean to have a secular state? I mean, there are questions about whether or not, your position is authoritarian, whether you believe in democratic values. What does a secular state mean to Syria?
A secular state means to deal with its citizen, regardless of their religion, sects, and ethnicity. Because Syria is a melting pot. We have tens of different cultures in Syria. If we don't have secular states that reflect this secular society, Syria will disintegrate. So that's what it means, secular society.
Well, one of the notions about this very serious conflict is that it's a civil war. Would you agree with that characterization, that you're involved in a civil war?
Civil war should start from the society, should start from within. Civil war needs...
So you're blaming outside interests?
It needs clear lines, geographical lines and social lines and sectarian lines that we don't have in Syria. We don't have these lines. Civil war doesn't mean to have 80 or 83 nationality coming to fight within your country supported by foreign countries. What we have is not civil war, what we have is a war, but it's a new kind of war.
So you're blaming outside interests then for the acceleration of the war. Now, there's just some statistics that have come out from IHS Janes. They're a defense analyst group. They estimate the opposition as 100,000, 30,000 of which are hardline Islamicists sympathetic to the 10,000 Al-Qaeda-inspired jihadists. Now, any of these Syrian, are they all outsiders? Where are they getting their money?
First of all, no one has this precise number. This is exaggeration, because most of the jihadists, when they come to Syria, they don't come through countries and they don't come through organizations. They just come by plane to neighboring countries and they cross the border like any other one, and they just want to come to Syria for the jihad with the other jihadists. So nobody has these numbers. We know that we have tens of thousands of jihadists, but we are on the ground, we live in this country. What I can tell you that 80, and some say is 90, it's difficult to be precise. We don't have clear data and precise data. 80 to 90% of the rebels on the ground, or the terrorists, are Al-Qaeda and their offshoots.
These are the rebels?
Yeah,
but you are not maintaining that all of your opponents are jihadis, are you?
No, not all of them. Of course, you have so many other different, but they are small. They are becoming minority. At the very beginning, the jihadists were the minority. At the end of 2012, and during this year, they became the majority with the flow of tens of thousands from different countries.
Where are they getting their money from? Can you tell us right now?
Mainly from donations.
But where? For donations from where?
Everywhere.
Can you name nations that are donating?
In the Islamic world. No, they come from individuals, not from countries, mainly. Those Al-Qaeda. We don't know if some countries support them directly. We don't know. We don't have any information. I have to be very precise. But mainly from donations from people who carry the same ideology in their minds.
You mentioned before that some figures that are given are exaggeration. Can you tell us now how many Syrians have actually died in this conflict?
We have tens of thousands of Syrians that have died, mainly because of the terrorist attacks, assassinations, and suicide bombers, the majority.
And how many are your government soldiers?
More than 15,000.
And how many are insurgents?
How many? No,
how many insurgents are jihadis?
We don't have numbers because we cannot count them. So,
well, but there are innocent people being killed in this, and the reports are that your government has bombed villages in which innocent people are killed. What about that, Mr. President?
What about
the innocent people who are killed by the Syrian forces?
The majority of the innocent people have been killed by the terrorists. not by the government. You cannot, not a government, a wise government in the world that would kill its own people. How can you withstand if you kill your own people for 2 years and a half? While the West is against you, the regional countries, many of them are against you, and your people are against you while you're killing them. Is it possible? Is it realistic?
So you're saying you're saying you're not killing your own people, but your forces have launched attacks on villages where your own people have been killed.
No, actually what you're talking about is when the terrorists infiltrating a residential area in villages and sometimes in the suburbs of the cities and within large cities, and the army has to go there to get rid of those terrorists. The army should defend the civilians, not the opposite. You cannot leave them free killing the people and assassinating the people and beheading the people and eating their heart. While when you go to defend them, you say that you are killing your own people. You don't. But in every war, you have casualties. This is war. You don't have a clean war. You don't have soft war. You don't have good war. That's
the international community reports that Syrian rebel forces opposed to you are equally, if not more, worried now about jihadi fighters than they were previously about your government. Now, in this new development, is there an opening for you to achieve a rapprochement with your Syrian opponents?
Yeah, here we have to differentiate between what you call opposition and the terrorists. Opposition is a political meaning, it's a political term. When you oppose somebody, like in your country, in any other country in the world, you have your own program, you have your own vision, you have your own grassroots, and you propose whatever you want regarding the political system or anything else, and you can change that system if you oppose the other party. Opposition doesn't mean to carry weapons and kill people, kill innocent, and to destroy schools, to destroy infrastructure, and to behead. What's the relation between opposition and beheading?
Well, let me then, as a follow-up, ask you about diplomacy. What diplomatic moves are you prepared to make as confidence-building measures towards peace in your country?
Any diplomatic move without having stability and getting rid of the terrorists is going to be illusional, just an illusion. So any diplomatic move should start with stopping the flow of the terrorists, the logistical support of those terrorists, the armament support and the money support. Then you have full plan. The Syrian could sit on the table, discuss the future of Syria, the political system, the constitution, everything.
Would that future include negotiations with the Syrian opposition?
Yeah, exactly. But that doesn't mean negotiating with the terrorists.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Now, but does it mean that you're ready for, let's say, a program of reconciliation with those who have opposed you? Are you ready for that?
Of course, we announced it at the beginning of this year. We said we are ready to discuss with any political party in Syria, inside Syria and outside Syria.
Let's take this down the road into next year. Would you be prepared to offer amnesty to all the Syrians who opposed your government?
They didn't breach the law. So if they oppose the government, they can come to Syria without amnesty. Only amnesty should be offered to anyone who violates the Syrian law or breach the law. If you oppose it, it's not crime. We have opposition within Syria.
But do you believe in amnesty as a path towards peace?
Yeah, that depends on to whom. If it's to whom they stain their hands with the Syrian blood, it could be as part of national reconciliation.
Would that include reparations to the families of those who were killed?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the president who should put all these details. I think the Syrian meeting of every faction or all the parties that could define all these details.
What would you say, Mr. President, to the millions of Syrians who are now refugees as you move towards a peace process? What will you do to say, please come home?
Of course, we want them to come back to their villages, to their cities, to their houses, to their homes. We want them to. But we have to help them with getting rid of the terrorists, because the majority of those refugees left because of the terrorists, not because of the government. Actually, we have refugees within Syria that's being helped by the government.
Well, let me ask you this. Have you spoken to President Obama?
Never.
Have you ever spoken to him?
Never.
Are you interested in speaking to our president?
That depends on the content. It's not a chat.
If you wanted to send him a message right now, what would you say to him?
Listen to your people. Follow the common sense of your people. That's enough.
And Pope Francis instructed the international community to lay aside the futile pursuit of a military solution. Do you believe the Pope's advice is valid for your government as well as other countries?
Of course, we invited every militant in Syria to give up its armament, and we offered amnesty to whoever lay down his armament and wants to go back to his normal life, to his normality as Syrian citizen. Of course, we believe in that.
Thank you. Now, before I give this back to my colleague, reporter Greg Palcott, I want to ask you a question that's been bothering me and perhaps other Americans. Not everyone who's watching this interview today knows that you're a doctor, you're an MD, and you've done this before you were president. As you know, doctors take an oath never to do harm to anyone. That's a direct quote from the Hippocratic Oath. Does a doctor give that up when he takes political office?
First of all, doctors take the right decision to protect the life of the patient. So you cannot say that they don't do harm physically, because sometimes they have to extract the bad member that could kill the patient. You could extract eye, you could extract leg, and so on. But you don't say that he's a bad doctor. It's still a humanitarian job, whatever they do. The same for a politician, but in a larger scale. A doctor deals with one patient, the politician should deal with the public, with millions or 10 of millions, and so on. So the question is whether your decision should help the life of the Syrians or not in such a situation. Nobody likes the violence. We are against the violence. But what will you do when the terrorists attack your country and kill the people? Would you say that I'm against violence, or you defend? You have army, you have police, they have to do their job. This is the Constitution, and this is the role of any government. What did you do in Los Angeles in the 90s when you have rebels? Didn't you send your army? You did.
Greg.
Exactly. So this is the mission of the government. The most important thing is when you take the decision, whether it harms or not, it should help the majority of the people. It's better if you take the decision that could help everyone, but sometimes in certain circumstances, in difficult circumstances, you cannot. So you have to take the less harmful decision.